All right, welcome in everyone to another deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty big one. We're going to be looking at how social media really shapes how we see beauty these days.
Absolutely.
So we're going to dig into, how these standards of beauty have shifted, particularly in this digital age.
Right.
We'll look at the impact of these platforms.
For sure.
And really importantly, give you guys some concrete things that you can do to kind of navigate this whole landscape. Our main goal is to help you understand the forces that are basically shaping how you see beauty and also provide some strategies you can actually use to build a healthier self-image.
It's pretty amazing to think about how much the definition of beauty has actually changed.
I know, right?
Like, it used to be just about genetics, right?
Yeah.
But now it's all these filters and algorithms that are constantly feeding us stuff,
Oh, totally. And the trends change so fast.
It's crazy how quick it is.
It's like whiplash.
I know.
Beauty ideals used to stick around for a while, like you could...
You knew what to expect.
Yeah. But now, it's like TikTok comes along and suddenly what's considered in can change overnight.
Oh, absolutely.
It's exhausting, really.
You don't even realize how much it affects you.
Right. It's insidious.
Totally. It chips away at your self-esteem.
It does.
Even if you're aware of it, it's hard to resist.
Absolutely. And it's funny because everyone's always saying, beauty's on the inside, but...
Oh, come on.
Come on. Society judges us on how we look.
All the time.
All the time. Face shape, size, skin tone, you name it.
Hairline, even.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, yeah.
It affects how the world sees us and how we see ourselves.
Definitely. It's this weird disconnect between what we're told and what actually happens.
It is.
And social media, it just blows everything up, doesn't it?
Oh, it's like a loudspeaker for all those insecurities.
Like, think about when you see those suggested posts online, right? Like, I remember seeing one about how to get a chiseled jawline.
Yeah.
Like, I'd never even thought about that before.
Where it even crossed your mind?
And then suddenly, I'm looking in the mirror.
Analyzing your jawline?
Totally. That's how they get you.
They plant that seed of doubt.
Exactly. It's like they're holding a magnifying glass up to everything you might perceive as a flaw.
And once you see it, it's hard to unsee it.
It's really interesting when you look at the science of attraction, though. There was this experiment back in 1878 by Francis Galton.
Oh, yeah, I read about that. What was it like trying to create a composite of a criminal's face?
Yeah, he wanted to find a sort of archetypal evil face,
Okay.
But the weird thing was, the composite faces he ended up with were considered really attractive.
Wait, so you're telling me that when you blend together a bunch of different facial features, you don't get some kind of Frankenstein's monster? You get beauty.
That's what happened.
That's wild.
And that's what got people thinking maybe there's something biological about what we find attractive.
So it's not all subjective.
Not necessarily. There's been research into specific facial ratios that people find attractive.
Really? Like, what kind of ratios are we talking about?
Well, like the distance between your eyes compared to the width of your face.
Okay.
Or the proportion of your upper lip to your lower lip. Apparently, there's an ideal ratio for everything.
Wow, that makes it sound so calculated, though. Like there's a formula for beauty.
It's a little unnerving, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And how does that tie into the whole visual media thing you mentioned?
Well, think about it. These ratios, whether consciously or unconsciously, they might be influencing everything from how magazines design their layouts to the filters everyone uses on social media.
So you're saying that these proportions, these ratios, they make things look more harmonious, more pleasing to the eye.
Exactly. And that's a big part of what we find attractive, right?
It's a fascinating idea. But then there's the whole evolutionary perspective too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like the idea that we're attracted to certain features, like symmetry or a strong jawline, because they signal good health and, reproductive fitness.
Right. Like historically, those features would have meant you were a good potential mate.
So maybe it is hardwired into us to some extent.
It could be. But here's the thing. If beauty was purely biological, then wouldn't everyone agree on what's considered beautiful?
That's true.
But that's obviously not the case.
Yeah. I mean, our research showed all sorts of examples of how beauty standards vary across cultures.
Oh, tons of examples.
Mm-hmm.
Like back in Renaissance Europe, pale, curvy women were the ideal.
Right.
Then you had the flappers in the 1920s, all about being thin and boyish.
And what about in Korea today? It's all about soft features for men.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Completely different ideals, all shaped by culture.
And social media, well, it's just accelerated everything, hasn't it?
It's like beauty trends on fast forward. What's hot one day is old news the next.
1 minute it's thick eyebrows, the next it's barely there crap.
It's possible to keep up.
And it's not just harmless fun either, right? There are some pretty negative consequences to all of this.
Definitely. A lot of people, men included, feel bad about their bodies because of what they see online.
You know, that statistic about the percentage of men who experience body dissatisfaction because of social media, that's pretty alarming, isn't it?
It is. And it's not just about feeling insecure. It can lead to serious issues like eating disorders.
Yeah, and that's a problem that affects men too, not just women.
Absolutely. But teenage girls, they're particularly vulnerable, aren't they?
They are, and it's scary how many of them say that social media makes them feel worse about their bodies.
It's really worrying. And what's even more concerning is that these insecurities are starting to affect younger and younger kids.
Oh, totally. Kids who are barely even teenagers are already feeling pressure to look a certain way.
It's a sign of how pervasive this stuff is.
Definitely. And you know what really highlights this disconnect between online ideals and reality? That whole Snapchat dysmorphia thing?
Oh, yeah. People wanting to get surgery to look like their filtered selfies.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
It is. They're trying to achieve a look that's literally digitally altered.
And every time someone uses a filter, it just reinforces that idea that their natural face isn't good enough.
It's a vicious cycle. You see these perfect images, compare yourself, feel bad, use a filter to try and fix it, and then you just get more and more used to seeing the filtered version.
It's like you're training your brain to dislike your actual face.
Exactly.
And of course, there are whole industries that profit from all of this insecurity, right?
Oh, for sure. The beauty industry, weight loss companies, plastic surgeons, they all benefit from people feeling bad about themselves.
So what can people do about it? It feels kind of overwhelming.
Well, that's where we get to the practical stuff.
Let's hear it.
First off, something as simple as improving your posture can make a big difference.
Really? How so?
Well, good posture makes you look and feel more confident.
It's like projecting an aura of self-assurance.
Exactly. And then there's what you wear. Choose clothes that make you feel good, you know?
It's about wearing things that make you feel confident and powerful.
Totally. And then there's your digital habits. Unfollow any accounts that make you feel bad.
Like those accounts that are constantly showing you unattainable beauty standards.
Or just people who are always showing off their perfect lives.
Yeah, it's about curating your online environment.
Exactly. And make sure you're spending time with real people, you know?
So that you're getting positive reinforcement from actual human interaction.
Exactly. A compliment from a friend is worth way more than a bunch of likes on Instagram.
Couldn't agree more. And finally, I think the most important thing is changing your mindset.
Couldn't agree more.
Realizing that these beauty trends are totally arbitrary and temporary, that's key.
Because what's in today could be out tomorrow.
Absolutely. It's like you don't need to play that game.
You really don't. Define beauty for yourself.
Own your reflection. Right.
Exactly. So here's the question I want you to think about. How much time and energy do you spend analyzing your appearance based on what you see online?
It's a good question.
What's one thing you could do today to stop doing that and start focusing on building your inner confidence?
It's about shifting your focus from external validation to internal validation.
Exactly. True beauty isn't about chasing trends. It's about embracing who you are.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, everyone.